a comparison with our war. I ask you to imagine the United States Air Force, which is reputed to be the most advanced in the world, although it is already losing primacy in several segments, but it is a respectable Air Force. No one doubts that. If it faced the same reality that Russians and Ukrainians experience in the theater of operations in Ukraine, which is the highly efficient electronic warfare system, a loss rate that defies military logic, and an extremely massive air defense like the USAF faced, or perhaps worse than what they faced in the skies of Vietnam. So this is the scenario we are going to study in today's video, which is starting now, where the USAF is not prepared, and neither is the Navy and cruiser aviation, to face a high-density scenario, which is unfolding in the Ukraine war. So if you're just joining us, subscribe to our channel and give us a like. Let's get to today's video. In World War II, the United States lost more than 65,000 aircraft for various reasons: aerial fire, combat, accidents, etc. In the Korean War, this number decreased to 2,700. In the Vietnam War, it went up again. There were about 10,000 aircraft, 5,500 helicopters, 400 to 500 fixed-wing aircraft, and roughly 1,000 drones. In other words, these three wars we analyzed have a high rate of aircraft attrition due to the intensity of the combat. We need to remember that when the war started, the German air defense conducted meticulous bombings. In Germany, the British attacked at night. So, the loss rate was very high, and we have to remember that, at least at the beginning of the war for the United States, in 1942 and 1943, the German Air Force had considerable experience. Later, it lost its ability to inflict heavy damage on the Allied aviation. During the Korean War, they faced Russian pilots, and the air defense of the Chinese and North Koreans improved over time. The Russians delivered Soviet anti-aircraft systems at the time, providing radar-guided anti-aircraft systems. For example, let's take the B-29, which is a plane that entered service at the end of World War II. It was revolutionary, innovative, a number of things. And when the Korean War starts, there are high losses. Then they switch to only night flights, operations where the risk is lower. Later, around the middle of the Korean War, they withdraw the B-29 from operations because it would be unfeasible to maintain it. In the Vietnam War, we had a serious problem with the United States aviation, partly due to the issue of missiles. They removed the cannons from some planes, which were left at the mercy of Russian jets. But a significant portion of American aviation lost in the Vietnam War was either due to North Vietnamese missiles or more conventional air defense. In any case, in these three wars we analyzed, which are high-intensity conflicts, American losses were high. Since Vietnam, the United States has practically managed the risk very well and has not faced an aviation capable of standing up to them. If you take the Gulf War, for example, Saddam's defense was very good, but it was already outdated. They had significant losses with Iran in the Iran-Iraq War. They also didn't have much money left to maintain it. So the United States had an easy time. The rest that comes up is Fidelistan, Panama, Grenada. Grenada was before, right? Panama too. But these are operations that don't even consider the defense. I think maybe since World War II, or since the Iran-Iraq War, there hasn't been such intense combat. What's happening? What's going on there in the war in Ukraine? Well, the first thing you have is that Russia manages to maintain a fairly consistent industrial production, so it supplies air defense weapons to its units in large quantities. This makes a difference against the Ukrainians. We hardly hear about operations from the Ukrainian Air Force. That's a fact. We see many drone operations, but you don't see large operations, both fixed-wing and rotary-wing. The F-16s that went to Ukraine, we haven't heard about them anymore. So much so that now they're talking about sending the Mirage 2000. Another issue that also matters in the war in Ukraine, both against the Russians and against the Ukrainians, is the presence of drones. Because with these drones, you can attack planes on the ground, at air bases, with minimal risk. In World War II, to attack an airbase, you always had the risk of losing aircraft. In the Ukraine war, drones have significantly mitigated this risk. But I think the crucial factor in all of this is air defense. Ukraine had a very good lineup of missile systems when the war started. Russia continues to have an excellent lineup. Long-range Russian fighters, like the Su-35 and Su-57, have made a difference. Russian radars, the range of Russian missiles, and also the stealth capability of the Su-57, they have probably used this aircraft to suppress Ukrainian aviation. And we say again, the United States has never faced a scenario like this since the Vietnam War. So it's not hard to understand that if the USAF were deployed in a situation like Ukraine's, they would suffer heavy casualties. And we don't know how the American public opinion would react to that. This applies to Israel as well. Israel has always operated there, since the invasion of Lebanon in '82 onwards, in a scenario of tranquility. Its neighbors, its opponents, don't have air defense, so it becomes very easy to operate. But we don't know what would happen if Israel were to operate in denser scenarios, both in terms of air defense and electronic warfare as well. We need to emphasize, it's very important, the electronic warfare scenario. Because the United States Air Force has always operated with superiority in electronic warfare. We can't guarantee that they would have this superiority in Ukraine. Russian electronic warfare is very advanced. It is equal to, if not better than, the electronic warfare of the United States. So this is the scenario we present. I'm not the only one talking about this either. Many American military planners, from the Air Force, Navy, and Marines, and to a lesser extent those from the Army who operate rotary-wing aircraft, are concerned about this. Look, if we are going to go to war against China, Russia, or Iran, things are going to be really complicated. They are keeping an eye on what happened in Ukraine. It's a fact. Although we always know that one war is never going to be the same as another. We don't know what's coming. But for example, it would be a big mistake in the war in Ukraine to think that this is a repetition of Afghanistan. The Ukrainians were trained. We need to remember that Ukraine also participated in various support operations for the United States and around the world. And they thought it was going to be a repeat of Afghanistan, fighting against the Taliban, who have light weapons, etc. And it's nothing like that. The situation is completely different. You're facing a regular army, which is the Russian army, very well equipped. That's a fact. Very well equipped, with cutting-edge equipment, and your loss rate is high. This happened with the Ukrainian army, it happened with the Ukrainian Air Force, the Ukrainian Navy was destroyed, and it would probably happen with the United States as well. I'm not saying it didn't happen with Russia. It happened with Russia, we know that. It's just that the way the Russians handle these issues of large losses is different from the West. We'll talk about that in other videos. So that was our video for today. If you want to watch, comment, share, give your like, say what you think about modern aerial warfare, if you agree with what was said here in the video, if you think a lot will change from now on. If you just want to support the channel, there's the super sticker, super chat, or Pix, which is running here on the screen. I remember, I'll leave you the intro for the strongmen of the Middle East, because in February we will have the webinar, the course, The Strong Men of the Middle East, with Professor Paulo Diniz from the GeoSmart News channel. Stay tuned for the webinar intro. If you want to register, the link is in the description. Don't forget to check out our course school, and we'll be back shortly, always with responsibility and commitment. It's in Brazil, folks. See you later.
Fé no Brasil, pessoal. Até mais. Bom, pessoal, eu vou deixar aqui no link na descrição.
Well, folks, I will leave in the link in the description of this video our entire line of books about Ukraine available on Amazon. There's a lot in various languages and formats as well. You'll find things on Kindle, in print format, right? What happens? Amazon delivers very quickly, especially for those who live here in the capital, São Paulo. It also accepts boleto, credit card, installment payments, etc. And I remind you, every time you buy books and other items on Amazon, you are helping the ARTE Da Guerra channel.
Itens na Amazon, vocês estão ajudando o canal Arte da Guerra.
Caption Driana Zanato.